7 o'clock. Welcome to the Planning Development Advisory Committee for January the 12th, 2021. We'll proceed with the roll call first. Indicate that you're here or present. Deep Bassi,
Present.
Paul Fedra,
Present.
Dan Kennedy,
Present.
Dennis O'Connor,
Present.
and I, John Sapoulis, the chair and present as well. So today we have two meetings. The first meeting is the Committee of Adjustment, where we have two minor variances on board. And we'll break the meeting, conclude the meeting once we're done with the minor variances, and then we'll move into the Planning and Development Advisory Committee, where we're providing comments to the county on one lot line adjustment and one severance. Before I continue on, just want to indicate that we have two members of the County Planning Department with us, Megan Ferris and Savari Jahab. And we also have in attendance our Deputy Clerk, Courtney Hoyt-Fox, and our Secretary Treasurer, Lynn Banks. So we may be calling on them during the course of the meeting for comments or advice. Okay, so let's move on to item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Lynn, did we receive any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
No, we did not.
Okay, gentlemen, do you, if anybody has any, just signify so and discuss it. No, good, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, approval minutes of December the 8th, 2020. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes? Deep and Dennis, second. Let's move around the, I'll go around the table. Deep, approve.
Approve.
Okay, Paul,
Approve.
Dan,
Approve.
Dennis,
Approve.
and I approve as well. Okay, we move now into the applications for minor variance or permission under Section 45 of the Planning Act. And before we start that, I'd like to note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you're consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, so moving into the minor variance. So the purpose of the hearings is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or express their views with respect to minor variance application before us today. We, the township, request that you please notify the secretary of the committee by emails at lbanks@puslinch.ca if you wish to be on record and would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding this application. So the format of the hearing is that staff will present information specifically outlining the purpose of the application, summarizing compliance with the township's notification submission requirements, outlining staff comments, agency comments, and public comments of those that could not attend the meeting. The applicant or agent will then present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarification, ask questions, express their views on the proposal. You will have a maximum of 10 minutes to speak. Following this, the members of the committee will likewise have the opportunity to obtain clarification, ask questions. Then the item will be brought into the committee. The committee will deliberate the application and render a decision. The decision will be subject to a 20-day appeal period. So let's move into the first one, minor variance application, D13 GRI Andrew Grenier, 4476 Victoria, 4477 rather, Victoria Road South, Lot 20, Concession 9, Township of Puslinch, requesting relief of new zoning, new comprehensive zoning bylaw number 23-2018 as amended from section 412 to permit a maximum floor area of 144 square meters instead of 100 square meters as required. So let's move into our staff. Lynn, would you summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outlining staff, agency, public comments, and recommendations? And Courtney, would you please put the drawing on the board?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and the following comment was received from Post Lynch Fire and Rescue Services. They have reviewed the notice of public hearing documents for the proposal. Oh, I'm sorry, that's for another one. No other comments were received.
So no comments from the building department?
No, they had no comments, and we did check, and they had no comments.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Next, we'll ask our Deputy Clerk, Courtney Hortfox, to have the owner or the applicant join the panels to present their application.
There we go.
Okay, would you please state your name and address?
Andrew Grenier, 4477 Victoria Road South, Post Lynch, Ontario.
Okay, so would you please present your application, what you're asking for?
Yes, I'm asking to have for a minor variance to increase the allowable floor space for a home industry. We are a few hundred square feet over allowable, and we're asking to have that increased.
Okay, we'll go on to the public opportunity now. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
No, there are not.
Courtney, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on this item?
I just ask any attendees to use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to make a comment on this application. I don't see any hands being raised, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, now let's turn it over to the committee members. I'll go around the table. If you have any questions of the applicant, please feel free to ask the question. So we'll start with Deep. Deep, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Not right now.
Okay, Dan?
No, I'm good with this.
Okay, Dennis?
I'm good.
Okay, and I'm good as well. So I'll read the application and we'll vote on it. And basically, it's either approved, not approved, or deferred. And the application is in the matter of Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, an application for minor variance requesting permission to requesting relief for new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from Section 412 to permit a maximum floor area of 144 square meters instead of 100 square meters as required. So we'll go around the table. Deep?
Approved.
Okay, Paul?
Approve.
Dan?
Approve.
Dennis?
Approve.
And I approve it as well. So it's approved and it's subject to a 20-day period, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, that's it for you, Andrew. We'll move on to the next item.
Okay, thanks very much, guys.
Okay. Okay, we move on to a minor variance application D13 OTH Hazar Othman 7272 Gore Road, Part Lot 30, Concession Gore, Township of Post Lynch, requesting relief of special provisions section of the Agricultural A Zone Bylaw 19/85, specifically Section 5.4 PPP 3, which establishes a maximum floor area of 169 meters, and 7, which prohibits a training area to be within a building or structure. The subject applications proposing relief from these sections to permit a total maximum kennel floor area of 838 square meters to facilitate the construction of the indoor training facility that is 669 square meters in size, and to permit a training area to be located within a building or structure. So let's move to staff comments. Lynn, would you summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outlining staff, agency, any public comments we received?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and there were several comments received from landowners within and outside of the circulation area, as well as one from the Puslinch Fire Department. And their comment is Puslinch Fire and Rescue Services have reviewed the notice of public hearing documents for the proposal for a building to be constructed at 7272 Gore Road, Puslinch. Please ensure that adequate water supply and fire department access is provided through the building permit stage of approvals to the satisfaction of the Puslinch Building Department and the Ontario Building Code. I also have a letter from a resident who I don't believe is able to attend the meeting tonight. I can read that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
This letter says, hello committee members. I'm going to redact his name and address for the time being, but he is a neighbor of 7272 Gore Road, the expansion proposition applicant. On behalf of all family members, along with several other residents on Gore, I'm writing this email to explain our opposition toward the dog kennel building expansion. Reason one, unconsulted and unauthorized dog training taking place on private property. The land next to the dog kennel property is leased to us from Hydro One. It is a private non-trespassing property. The land is used by us and another local farmer to grow crops and vegetables, but to our knowledge and witnessed by other neighbors, unconsulted and unauthorized dog training has been taking place on the land. The kennel owner is taking advantage of the vacant land, which is not the case because a lot of crops are planted the previous year for the next year's growth, and making a business profit off of it. The current damage, loss of crops and vegetables due to dog training is hard to measure because on-site surveillance is not feasible, but if the kennel expansion application is approved, the damage will only increase. Reason number two, unauthorized and illegal kennel waste dumping on private property. In addition to dog training, the dog kennel business has been dumping kennel waste, consists mainly of dog feces, onto the hydro land leased to us. Witnessed by other neighbors, they have been using farm utility vehicles to take buckets filled with kennel waste, drive to our property and dump there. There has been zero inquiry and zero consultation with us. Again, trespassing and illegal dumping on private land for their own business profit is not acceptable. And reason three, daily barking noise. We lease the land from Hydro One next to the kennel, but we actually live across from them on the other side of Gore. Still hearing barking from dog training is a daily constant, although the barking noise does not create a big problem for us yet compared to the immediate neighbors. I can only imagine it will be after the expansion. Due to the three main reasons mentioned above, my family opposes the building expansion application proposed by 7272 Gore Road. Thank you for your time, and hopefully our opinions will be considered.
Okay, before we move on, Courtney, would you please provide the conditions that staff have suggested that be added to the notice of decision should it be approved?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, I'll display them with the screen share.
Okay, Lynn, do you want to read that off for everybody? Lynn?
Certainly, that the subject relief is solely for the purposes of facilitating the construction of an indoor training facility, which is to be used for training purposes only, and does include washrooms or office space, and does not permit the boarding, breeding, grooming, or keeping of dogs for sale. The second one is that the subject relief is solely for the purposes of permitting a single-story indoor training facility that shall not exceed a total gross floor area of 669 square meters. Three, that the permissions for the outdoor training area be removed to the satisfaction of the township. Four, that the site plan approval be obtained from the township to address issues such as, but not limited to, building location, setbacks from existing dwellings, and the natural environment zone, fencing, noise, etc. And the last one is, as per the Township of Puslinch Site Plan Control Bylaw 2019-029, that final approval of a future site plan application shall be given by Township Council, and that part of the approval process shall be the council shall give consideration to public comments and concerns.
Okay, so these are the conditions on the notice of decision document that will be read out. So everybody's aware of going in for what the entire document will consist of. Okay, let's move on to the applicant or agent. Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panelists to present their application? And Courtney, when you get a chance, could you please put on the screen the site plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trevor Hawkins from MHBC here on behalf of the owner as agent for the applicant.
Okay, please present your application.
First of all, we just wanted to clarify the notice indicates that that the application relates to an expansion of the kennel. And while that is a technicality in the description, we wanted to emphasize that the purpose of the application is to allow for indoor training within the white box. So the white box on the screen in front of you is a defined and permitted outdoor training area that was granted through the site-specific bylaw in 2019. And the purpose of this application is to move the training from an outdoor to an indoor environment. So it's designed to improve the situation on the site by moving what would already be permitted outside into a building inside. So the building is a lot smaller than the outdoor training area. We are in support of council's or staff's recommendations in that would be the sole purpose of the building. It wouldn't be for any other components that would have or are associated with the other kennel buildings. So no boarding, no breeding. It would only be used for training. And then the balance of the white box, subject to the condition advanced by staff, would no longer be allowed for outdoor training. So the idea is that we're improving an existing situation by moving dogs from the outside environment into a building that would be subject to site plan control and some of the other measures that staff are recommending. And we've chosen that location because it's already permitted in terms of the training. So we wanted to be consistent with the general intent of the area of that site, and that it is further from the single detached homes on Gore Road and on Concession. So we felt that this was the best area for indoor training. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Okay, now we move to the public opportunity. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
I believe there are 3 that have submitted letters, but there could be more than that who have not submitted. Ms. Whitefox would be able to clarify that.
Okay, so Courtney, I guess, Lynn, I guess would be the best thing to do is the people that have submitted, could you read their name? And Courtney, would you please unmute that attendee? And then we'll go through the people who have submitted letters and wish to speak. And then we'll ask a general question if anybody else in the audience would like to speak.
Certainly. So I have Mike and Lucy White.
So Mr. Chair, I'm going to unmute our phone call. We have a caller that's called in through our phone line. I don't see Mike and Lucy White listed. So I'm just going to double check to see if this is them calling in.
Great, thank you.
So our phone caller, which is 905-659-7356. I'm just asking to unmute your microphone. If you could just maybe confirm if you are in fact the Whites, and if you'd like to have a comment.
Whoever's on a telephone call, you are muted, so we can't hear you if you're trying to say something.
Courtney, is there a certain number that they have to push to unmute themselves?
I'm not certain of that, Megan. I'm requesting for them to unmute, so it should be prompting them on the phone. Perhaps could we come back to this caller, Mr. Chair?
Sure, certainly. Okay, so Lynn, you're saying Mike and Lucy White were the first ones. Can you call up the next one?
Certainly, we have Jeff and Rose Jurica.
Okay. Courtney, would you please bring them up?
Yes, they should be here with us shortly.
Great, thank you. Oh, we see you. Okay, would you, for the record, would you please state your name and address, please?
Sure, it's Rose and Jeff Jurica, and we're at 7288 Gore Road.
Okay, thank you. So we'll give you 10 minutes, and as you ask each question, or we'll go to the appropriate person, either the applicant or the planner, to answer it for you. So it's 7:21 on my clock, so we'll give you till 7:31 if that's if you need the entire time. So go ahead.
Okay, I'll just read off what we submitted to Lynn, and Jeff and I attended the meetings with council back in 2018 when Mr. Othman was from agricultural to kennel. At that time, we were not in support of this property changing to kennel. However, Mr. Othman assured council and residents at that time that the kennel would not expand or add any new buildings or dogs to the existing. And based on his promises at the rezoning meeting and the minute documentation of D14 FRE, the kennel is to be operated out of existing outbuildings on the property. Interior improvements are proposed to support business operation. However, no expansion to building envelope or new structures are proposed. Further, no additional parking areas are proposed. We agreed not to oppose the zoning change, but now, not even 3 years later, Mr. Othman is requesting to build an 838 square meter building for indoor training. And I understand that it's actually 669 square meters, and then the one from what we understood during this meeting, that the 169 square meter kennel building would still exist. And when we submitted, we said we had not seen any planning for this property or locations of the building, which we have now. Kennel, parking lot, or any noise studies, etc. on this property. And we feel that these issues need to be addressed before Mr. Othman can apply for this variance. And we would have appreciated being advised of where exactly Mr. Othman is constructing this building on the property, which we know now, and as well as the plans for the existing 169 square meter kennel building. Will it be knocked down and relocated into the new 838 square meter structure? And at this time, we have too many questions, and at present, no answers as to how it will affect us next door to kennel. And that is why we do not support this minor variance.
Okay. Any other points you wish to raise or ask any questions of the applicant?
No.
Nope.
I don't. Did you want to add any?
well,
did you want to ask
not-
the applicant?
Well, not at this time, because again, we have really no answers at this point to even
we don't know really what's going on at this point, other than he wants this larger building that was never supposed to happen according to when the rezoning happened. That's just kind of what's setting us back. Is
Well, okay,
What's
with
going
respect to
on
the
there?
details you are asking about, that would only come into play once the application for the minor variance is approved, and as per the information submitted, provided by Lynn on the screen, there would have to be a site plan application made where all those details will be ferreted out and discussed and made public. So right now, all we're doing is saying yay or nay, or deferring the minor variance application.
I just, if I could, I just wouldn't mind adding this really quickly. I said, I think no variances to this kennel or dog training facility should be really discussed until the new bylaw, kennel bylaw has been updated and issued. I think we're just kind of, they're looking at that, and I think we really need to see what's coming out of that before they do any changes.
I'll ask the question of our planner. Megan, could you comment on that?
Sorry, it just took me a second to unmute. So thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, the township is working on a new kennel licensing bylaw. However, I think it's still quite in its preliminary stages at this point in time. That's my understanding. I think the one thing that needs just to be clear is that whenever someone's proposing an application on a property, it's not something that the township can refuse. So we can't say, oh, you're proposing a minor variance, we don't want to review it. You can't proceed, you've said this in the past. So there is an obligation for the township to process the application if it's deemed complete in terms of all the information that's been provided, enough for someone to myself to make a recommendation on. So that's why we're here today, because we're pretty much obligated to provide some sort of a recommendation on the application. So it is noted that there is a new licensing bylaw that is being processed, but right now we have to deal with the application that's in front of us and deal with any licensing provisions that's applicable today.
Any other questions, Rose and Jeff?
No, we're good. Thank you for hearing us out.
No problem at all. Okay, Lynn, can you identify the next person who you have on your list who would like to comment or ask questions?
Next is Jamie and Linda Holmes.
Courtney, would you please connect them to the forum?
They should be moving over any moment.
Okay. Hi, Jamie. I see that you're have the speaker on. Don't see your face, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, that's to your benefit, John.
Okay, so Jamie, for the record, before we start, can you just please indicate your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Jamie Holmes, and I live at 3994 Concession 7.
Okay, so it's 7:28 now, Jamie, so we'll give you till 7:38 to ask questions or present your case. Oh, there you are. I see you there.
There you go. There you go. So you push the right button. Just very quickly, I have very similar concerns, I guess, to some of my neighbors. I did take the opportunity to speak to the property owner. Because I wanted to get a better grasp of exactly what it is they were, attempting to do. The gentleman, I've only lived here 4 years, so I don't, unlike my neighbors down at the end of the road there, I don't know what had gone on before. But all I can say is that What the gentleman suggested to me was that he wanted to make application to turn what he was permitted to do outside and to bring it inside. Because I expressed to him my concern, you know, if they're going to be expanding, doing more business, bringing more dogs, more owners, whatever the case may be. I already have noise concerns now, and I'm certainly a little ways up the road from them. But he explained that what they wanted to do was to move that operation indoors, which would therefore make sense to me that it would be quieter. I also expressed my concern to him about how he was handling the waste from the animals that he presently had, and how he was going to move forward in I guess, remediating and dealing with that waste moving forward. You know, obviously we're all on a shared aquifer, and we're all on wells, and everybody's concerned about their water quality. Now, he did explain to me that he had an arrangement with somebody in order to deal with this. He didn't go into great detail on how that was exactly being done, but being that I'm not an immediate neighbor, you know, as some are, that is still a great concern to me, and it should be concern to all of us. I just want to make sure that whatever they're going to do is not going to be of more impact than what it already is. And that's really all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. All right, so we'll, Lynn, do you have anybody else who would like to, who's registered to speak rather?
Ms. Whitefox could check to see if the Whites are in attendance.
Yes, I see Lucy White is an attendee now. So, Mr. Chair, I can move her over to a panelist for her commenting.
Great, thank you. Hi, Lucy. I see you on that your mic's open, but no visuals yet. I don't know if your internet can bring a visual forward, but in any case, that's fine. Could you please indicate your name and address for the record? And oh, you're muted now, Lucy. Lucy, you're muted. There you go.
Okay, I just hit unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. That's great. So Lucy, for the record, would you please indicate your name and address?
Lucy and Mike White, 7266 Gore Road.
Okay, Lucy, so it's 7:32. We'll give you till 7:42 to make your comments and ask any questions that you may have of the proponent. So go ahead.
Thank you. Let me know if you have any difficulties hearing me.
Will do.
Dear Committee of Adjustment, we've been residents of 7266 Gore Road, Puslinch, Ontario since November 19th, 1981. As immediate neighbors to the west of 7272 Gore Road, where Mr. Othman moved in 3 years ago and opened his business Shield Canine, which is a dog training, boarding, and breeding operation, we are writing in strong opposition to minor variance application D13 OTH. Is it appropriate to entertain a zoning bylaw variance when the applicant has a significant history of non-compliance and there is currently an open file of non-compliance being investigated by the township? We are aware that Mr. Othman is in active non-compliance of the following Puslinch Township kennel bylaws. Mr. Othman is in current violation of operating a kennel within 300 feet of our home. This is occurring in the Gray building, which is not a part of his official kennel. According to the minutes of the February 15th, 2018 public meeting, Mr. Othman's advocate, Trevor Hawkins, stated that they were storage buildings. We complained to Mr. Lance, who was the bylaw officer at the time, that a breeding operation was taking place in that building because in the spring of 2019, the noise from the puppies was extremely loud and constant. Spending time out in the garden was extremely stressful, which is kind of counterproductive to the activity. Mr. Lance responded that there was an open active complaint regarding Mr. Othman's business, and since it was an ongoing investigation, He couldn't get into details. Mr. Othman has yet to comply with this bylaw, and we've heard nothing from the bylaw enforcement. Our complaint about barking emanating from inside that gray building was met with denial. Mr. Othman was in violation of the Pussman Township Kennel Bylaw by conducting a perpetual slow burn of dog waste. Continue
Lucy, we're
days at
losing
a
you.
time. The stench environment unconscionable. You're losing me?
Okay, you're back again. That's good.
Oh, okay, thanks. The stench was repulsive and the pollution of the environment unconscionable. After being ordered to stop by the Pussman Fire Department, Mr. Othman found another alternative to the disposing of his waste, yet again in violation of the bylaws, by disposing of it on leased land under the hydro lines beside Mr. Othman's property. We have witnessed some dog training on this property, and it only recently came to our attention that he was using the land without permission of the landowner. It was also later that we learned that Mr. Othman was disposing of his current kennel waste there. And if he certainly cannot afford to dispose of the waste of the current kennel waste load, he can afford to dispose of the waste of an expanded business. Also, he's in defiance of the Code of Practice for Canadian Kennel Operations, which is a document composed by veterinary professionals. And this opposition to the original bylaw amendment, only agreed to allow Mr. Othman the zoning bylaw amendment on the condition that he not apply for any further expansion. According to the minutes of the zoning bylaw amendment 19/85 on February 15, 2018, Mr. Othman's associate Hawkins stated
Lucy, we're losing you again. Lucy? Lucy?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, it seemed to have dropped out again. But go ahead.
Okay. Rural living, you gotta love it. The construction of an 838-meter arena is definitely an expansion of the business Mr. Othman will be able to enhance his current clientele. Thus exacerbates this original amendment. Vague, nowhere on the map is it illustrated that on the variance that was the proposed arena on a 16-acre property. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now, yes.
Okay. Feeding time is very noisy at Shield Canine. We hear the dogs barking as it echoes inside the kennel, regardless of the fact that they're inside. This is evidence that any canine activities taking place indoors by no means guarantees peace and tranquility to the other neighbors. And what this application also fails to declare is that accompanying the arena will be a parking lot, glaring nighttime lights, and evening training sessions, all of which will compound current issues with neighbors. At present, the play area beside the kennel is lit up with glaring lights similar to that of a car dealership. An increase in the current amount of traffic on the road is something else that we find unacceptable. As seniors, much of our enjoyment is limited to our backyard. When Mr. Othman first moved in, there was a constant drone of construction equipment as he amended the property business. Enjoying the outdoors was almost impossible. We complained to the people who were living there at the time, who I think was his mother and brother, I'm not sure. We tolerated it in the hopes that it was temporary. They agreed that it was a lot of noise. However, the construction is ongoing. They had fencing, buildings, shelters. We may as well live beside a gravel pit. When is it going to stop? Last but definitely not least, permission of a variance to current zoning will negatively impact us financially, as the resale value of our home will be significantly decreased for all the reasons stated above. We're aware that the township is presently compiling performance-based dog kennel licensing regulations and penalties. We trust that the regulations will be based on the Code of Practice for Kennel Operations and include the requirement to limit the number of dogs in the building, as well as waste disposal regulations and a limit in the amount of imperative that noise dampening standards be incorporated into the construction of any kennel, as well as the planting of evergreen trees and a sound and visual barrier. Should this application be successful, despite the opposition of several constituents, we respectfully request that all training be limited to indoors only, and noise reduction be involved. And we'd like to be included in the review of the rules and penalties to ensure that our concerns are addressed, since we will be directly affected. Mr. Othman recently spoke to my husband, Mr. White, in person, but withheld informing him of his intentions to expand his business. Why the opacity with a direct neighbor? We aren't unreasonable people. The violations that we've listed above are minor infractions that don't affect anyone else. We wish to request that anyone in support of the application declare any possible conflict of interest, be it business or personal. Shield Canine is not operating away from neighboring homes. Mr. Othman's business would be better suited to an industrialized area, among other businesses where the enjoyment of personal home properties is not negatively affected. We've invested 40 years of our lives in Pusslands Township, and after dealing with Mr. Othman's
Hi, Lucy, we're losing
zoning
you.
by
Lucy, we're losing you.
amendment, only too sure you put in the position of having to full as the trust of the township. Does the township need another business that is in compliance of its bylaws? I conclude my. Can you hear us now?
We can hear you, yeah, yeah. So for the interest of everybody, I'll just reread your last paragraph. You were sort of blurry at that. So I'll read it out for everybody. We have invested 40 years of our life in Pusslands Township, and after dealing with Mr. Othman's zoning bylaw amendment only 2 short years ago and his violation of bylaw since, we feel that we should not be put in a position of having to defend our quality of life yet again. We oppose this application due to Mr. Othman's repeated abuse of his neighbor's trust as well as the trust of the township. Does the township need another business as in non-compliance of its bylaws? Okay, Lucy, is there anything else you wish to add? Lucy?
Objection, because Othman's had a few years. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so we wrote this letter of objection because Mr. Othman's had 3 years to exhibit good business practice to his neighbors and has failed in this regard.
Okay, Lucy.
That's it for
That's it?
us.
Okay, Lucy, that's it. All right. Thank you very much, Lucy, for your comments.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Okay, Lynn, is there anybody else that has registered to speak?
No, I do not have anyone else that's registered. If Ms. Hoyfox could confirm with those in attendance if they wish to speak.
Sure, I'll ask. Courtney, would you please advise whether any attendees watching the hearing would like to provide comments or ask questions regarding the application and discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I see one hand raised by Dave Cummins, so I'll just unmute him now.
Okay, Dave Cummins, okay. Dave, I see you on the screen, but you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. You can hear me okay now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay,
Dave,
thank you.
so can you Dave, for the record, you please state your name and address.
Yeah, David Cummins. I'm at 3926 Concession 7.
Okay,
I'm
and
pretty much across from where he wants to put the new building, I guess. He's pretty much right behind my house through the trees.
okay, so it's 7:44, and we'll give you till 7:54 to ask questions or provide comments. Go ahead.
I don't have a speech to, so it won't be that long. But some clear points I have noticed that other people seem to be educating themselves on. When I've been there a couple times, he at my door and told me what he's been doing. So I've gone over there a couple of times. I noticed that he puts all his dog waste in green bins and trucks take them away for those who are concerned about the dog waste. Just to clear that up, I've watched that a couple of times happen. So the other thing, I think I'm kind of in favor of the building only because the logic makes sense that if you put the dogs in a building and train them instead of outside, it's going to be a lot quieter. And the location of this building, because I know where it is, outside the people that are complaining to them.
Okay, Dave, we're losing you. Dave, I don't know if you're speaking too close to the microphone or not, but you seem to be going in and out. Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having difficulty with you.
Can you hear me okay now or no?
Yes, sir, we can, yes.
Okay. I don't know where you heard me from. All I was saying is the dog waste I've noticed from when I went over there, because I just heard people talk about this now, just to clear that up. I watched their employees that he employs to they put it in a green bin and a truck comes and takes it away. That's what I've been watching happen. But the concern about the building to me is not an issue because it looks to me like he's going to train the dogs inside the building from what he showed me he wants to do, which will be even quieter than what it is now. And the location of the building and the tree line, because I know this area well, is hidden from all the neighbors, so nobody has to look at it and it'll be quieter. So I'm in favor of it for those two reasons.
Okay, any other comments, Dave?
No, thank you, John. I just wanted to clear the air from what I know, that's all.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank
Courtney,
you.
are there any other members of the audience who'd like to speak?
I'll just ask any attendee that wishes to make a comment to just use the raise your hand feature. Mr. Chair, we have two additional attendees looking to speak. So Lucy White and then also the property owner, Mr. Othman.
Well, we already had Lucy White.
Yes, it looks like perhaps she's looking to make a second comment.
Okay, so let's get the owner to speak. Okay, Hassler, you're muted. Okay, you're good now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. So if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Hajar Othman. I reside at 7272 Gore Road in Prince Lynch Township.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I just wanted
I'll give you till 7:58.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things for my concerned neighbors about what it is that we're proposing. I think the problem is in the wording that the township used when they sent the notification of the minor variance application out. It implies an expansion of the kennel operation. We do not propose an expansion of the kennel operation. The kennel operation is sufficient for our needs at this time. What we need to do is, the reality is, I have a business that employs 10 full-time people. I have 2 part-time employees as well. You know, it's a growing business, and as the COVID situation has developed, we are no longer able to utilize the small existing indoor space that we do have. So we are doing a lot of our training in the field, both fields allocated for that purpose on the property. Now, I'm looking to streamline the operation and bring as much of the training as is possible indoors for the sake of convenience, for the sake of my clients, and also, you know, for my personal desires to be more indoors, especially in this weather. The more training that we can succeed with achieving indoors, the better. So what I'm proposing is not an increase in the kennel operation. The kennel operation is what it is, and it will not change. I want to bring the training indoors. People are complaining about floodlights. People are complaining about evening training happening. Well, unfortunately, people work during the day, so the training has to happen in the evening. So what this would do is this would address all those concerns, because we would actually be indoors doing that training, or the vast majority of it anyways, instead of outdoors. So the area that we're proposing the building is already permitted for training. So the training would happen one way or the other. That part doesn't change. What it means is that training is indoors, and therefore less of an encumbrance to my neighbors, if they view it as such. Now, of course, I understand there's you know, two neighbors basically being represented here in their proposal. And by the way, I love you guys, and when I see you on the street, I'll still wave at you and say hi. But I certainly understand their concerns. However, you know, I think that our proposed variance is actually going to make you know, those concerns better. You know, the operation is what it is. It's not going to change. So if they wanted to continue out there in the field with the floodlights and so on and so forth, I mean, you know, the employees need their paychecks. You know, we've got clients that desire our services, and you know, the reality is businesses don't stagnate. We have 16 acres here for a reason. We purchased 16 acres for a reason, because we wanted space within which to grow. Now the growth is reasonable. We understand there are things like waste and so on and so forth that people have concerns over. And just to address, I don't know where this rumor that we dump our waste came from. Our waste goes into the green bin company that they give those huge green dumpsters. The name escapes me, WEP or something. And they haul our waste twice a week from the green bin. And people are welcome to come and see the green bin and look inside if they so wish. It's right in front of our kennel building. So there's no extra waste being dumped at all. But yeah, just to be clear what this is, this would really allow my business to improve the services that we deliver. We're not going to increase the parking. The parking that we have now is sufficient. All we're doing is moving training that exists outdoors, indoors. You know, and I think that's in an area that's already zoned for it. So the variance is only to enclose the existing outdoor training area. Unfortunately, Puslinch Township doesn't differentiate between training and keeping dogs, and that's the issue. So it appears as if we're trying to create another large kennel, when in fact we're not. We have no interest in doing that. We just it will basically be like a horse arena. That's just a shell, an empty, you know, shell that we're going to be able to train out of the elements within, and of course reduce the impact to the outdoor areas. And as I always say to my neighbors, you know, if you have any concerns, you know, you can always feel free to bring it to me. A lot of these concerns that were aired, no one ever brought it up, or some of the ones that are being aired now, unfortunately, they're from years ago, and they were already addressed. You know, so we're in full compliance, and you know, we have no problem working with the neighbors and you know, whatever it is that you know, their concerns are, we do our best to ameliorate it. But also at the same time, we are running a business. My family lives here too, and that's the other important thing. I have 3 children and my wife, and we live here too, on our dream home, on a property here. And you know, we're not divorced from this. We're intimately a part of this. So that's all I really have to say, and I'm willing to answer any questions anybody has.
Yeah, we'll take it to the audience still. Okay, Courtney, anybody else who wish to comment or speak or ask questions?
So, Mr. Chair, I see Miss Lucy White still has her hand raised for a comment. If you are all right, I will unmute her.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Hi, Lucy, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're a bit garbled. You've already had your 10 minutes.
Hello?
Hi, Lucy, we hear you. You've had your 10 minutes, but I'll give you a couple more minutes
Yes,
to
I
make your point.
mentioned in my letter that we wish to request that anyone in support of the application declare their possible conflict of interest. And Dave Cummings does some work for Mr. Othman, so I would consider that a conflict of interest. Also, the gray building with the breeding going on, that is still in non-compliance. So that is an ongoing issue that has not been resolved. And I noticed that Mr. Othman said, as long as it's possible, we'll do indoor training. That does not guarantee that all the training will be done indoors. And what sort of soundproofing is going on inside in the construction of this arena, we would like to know.
Okay, Lucy, is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Othman, so you've had 3 questions there. First of all, a question with respect to breeding. A second question with respect to your comment that you said possible. And lastly, the soundproofing of the building. You're muted. You're muted. Assar, you're muted. Okay, there you
Does
go.
that work?
Yeah, it works, yeah.
Okay, so in relation to breeding, all breeding happens up at the main kennel, so that is incorrect. You know, I don't know where they got the impression that breeding happens down there. It's not the case. You know, I certainly walk with my dogs down there. I own quite a few dogs that live at the house with me. And, you know, people walk up and down the driveway with dogs all the time. So perhaps that's where they might think that. You know, in relation to soundproofing in the building, I believe that was question number 2. Right now we're training outside. There's no soundproofing outside. And so any improvement upon that, I think, you know, we're talking about a building that's 60 by 120. Certainly you can put up baffles, which we plan on doing to prevent undue echoing, which are like these foam squares. But rest assured, it will be better than being outside. In relation to outside, I have a couple of areas on the property where I am allowed to train clients' dogs. Like that's for profit training. A number of those areas. One of those areas is being sacrificed for this building. So I'm basically giving up one of those areas in exchange for this building. Dogs do require some time outdoors. Unfortunately, we can't keep them inside all the time. It's inhumane. And since you're, you know, so interested in the code of ethics for keeping dogs, it's essential that they actually do some stuff outside. So the average client that comes here will receive their training indoors. But I'm not going to, you know, say that no dog will ever be trained outside, especially in the nicer weather. You know, we have 16 acres here for a reason. We didn't buy 1 acre. We didn't buy 5 acres. We bought 16, and we paid the price to have the land, to have the option to do the things, you know, that we're doing. So yes, we have, you know, we want to work with you, and we don't want you to be upset. And like I said, I'm always going to be friendly with you, no matter what the outcome is today. But you know, unfortunately, we do have a business to run. My family lives here too, and I'm not going to stagnate my business or hamstring it, you know, just to please you. And just so you know, the construction that's ongoing right now is the neighbor on the other side. It's not us. We're not doing any construction at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Courtney, are there any other members of the audience who wish to comment or ask questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Rose and Jeff Jerica. They previously spoke and have their hand raised again.
Okay, is there anybody else new who has not spoken? I really want to ensure that anybody who has not spoken have the opportunity first to speak.
Mr. Chair, no, there's no other hands being raised.
Okay, sure. Let's put the Jerichos back in. Okay, hi, Rose and Jeff. You're on for your questions. You're muted right now, so you unmute.
I'll really make this quick.
No,
No? Can you hear
Okay.
us?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, I'll just make it really quick. Mr. Hoffman mentions about the 16-acre property. The problem with that 16-acre property, it's long and narrow. It's got neighbors on both sides of the narrow part, so we can't really, that 16 acres just isn't right. You can't use that 16 acres as an excuse for having a big acreage. It's not like you're in the center. That's all I wanted to say. I just don't want to say anymore.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Courtney, is there anybody else in the audience who would like to make comments or ask questions?
I'll just ask if there's any attendees looking to speak, if they can just use the raise your hand feature. Mr. Chair, I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, fair enough. Now let's turn it over to members of the committee. So we'll start with Deep. Do you have any questions of either Trevor or the owner?
Sure. My first question is it possible to move the building towards the eastern side, I guess, of the lot? Maybe somewhere in the middle. Although I do see there's a green space, maybe we have to go through GRCA. Is it possible to shift the building, I guess, further away from the Emerald Lake Trailer Park?
Perhaps that's a question for Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is a green space on site. So in the county's official plan, there's a couple of natural features that are identified that are primarily locally significant. And then this area is also within the natural environment zone. So technically they wouldn't be able to actually construct this particular commercial kennel operation within the NE zone. So they are, that is why they're kind of offside and more to the west of the property.
Okay, Megan, my second question is, does the kennel comply with our bylaws? I mean, there's a couple of letters about violations. Are they in good standings with the township?
So through the chair, that is a tough one for me to answer as a land use planner. And maybe that's better for staff to be able to comment on. It does sound like there are some concerns historically that have been voiced to by law enforcement. In terms of active files or anything of that nature, it's not necessarily something that I'm able to answer in great detail.
Yeah, I'll turn that question over to Courtney. Courtney, is there anything you wish to add to Megan's comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff are able to confirm that there is an open investigation. However, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act does prevent staff from giving any further detail on the matter.
Okay. So my next question is the size of the building. Would it be, I guess, do you really need a building that big?
Mr. Hoffman, question for you.
Okay, yes. Yeah, we do. I mean, if we're going to go to the expense and effort to build a building, then it needs to at least be the size of the training area that we're permitted out there. What the building that we're proposing is the same size as a small horse training arena. So there are numerous buildings of that size in the township and larger. You know, I do plan on also storing a number of my like my RV there and some trailers and so on and so forth. But yes, that, you know, 60 by 120 isn't an extremely large building.
Now, if your application is successful, would you be willing to make the building soundproof?
Can I talk? Oh.
Okay.
finish. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know that you could make a building that size soundproof, but you can definitely, as I mentioned earlier, you can put up those foam panels that they put up in gyms and such that baffle the noise. But I guarantee you this, it'll be quieter than whatever it is we're doing out there now. Because I mean, any wall is better than nothing. So, you know, for our sake, of course, when we're training in there, anyways, if we don't put something in there, it's going to be like ridiculously echoey. So the fact that, you know, once we've built it, we do plan on putting noise baffling devices within it. I don't know what sound, like, will it be soundproof like a singing booth? Probably not. But will it be significantly better than training outside? Definitely. I would assume you'd probably have to be standing maybe within like a couple of feet of it to hear anything.
Okay, I'm good. No further questions.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Just two questions. One for Megan or staff, but just regard, I know there was some of the conditions that we saw at the beginning. Was a noise study part of those conditions at all? And if, I guess my extension to that is, what does that look like? Like if we were to request something like a noise study?
So through the chair, based on the conditions that I've proposed, I did not incorporate a noise assessment. However, I do note that I have included a conditions for site plan control or site plan approval, essentially, to be obtained. And through that process, potentially a noise assessment could be requested. Alternatively, though, this committee can impose an additional condition requesting a noise assessment be completed. They do look at certain building, like kind of construction standard requirements and certain changes on site, such as if you have windows, closing them and having certain types of, I guess, materials utilized to help with noise. So a noise assessment can kind of go into more details of how a building can be constructed to help reduce noise on a property, but it's not explicitly a condition that I've imposed or proposed to the committee today.
Okay. Thanks, Megan.
Paul,
And just a
Paul, we
second
can add that
question
as a
for,
condition and vote on it to be added as a condition.
Yeah. And the second question, just for the applicant, Mr. Othman, just with regards to, you mentioned there's 10 employees that you have currently working from your home business. Is there plans to hire further employees as you kind of, take this next step in your business with this new building?
Hello?
Yep, go
yeah,
ahead.
so
yep.
Currently no, because again, like I said, the operation is just being moved indoors. So I don't anticipate requiring more employees at this time. We're moving what's happening outside inside. And as it applies to the noise study, I mean, it's nice to say noise study, but really what's a noise study going to tell you other than the noise that already exists? It's not, there won't be any more noise. It would actually be less noise because what occurs now is going inside. So, I don't really know, what that would do in terms of like, us helping with the overall noise, but, that's, yeah, I think that covers it.
Okay, just I guess the extension from that, and I'm good.
Sorry, Paul, you're breaking up.
With regards to the building, you did mention that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Just the last question I had was with regards to the business again. You did mention that, this is kind of the next phase in growing your business. Is this going to drive more clients to your location by having this offering, like an indoor facility, like traffic and more cars coming in and out of your location?
It's certainly possible. I mean, again, we got a lot going on right now, and like I said, I don't have any plans to increase my parking lot capacity because, quite frankly, it's unnecessary. I still have space in my lot. The issue is, again, just moving things that are outside inside. So it's not really about increasing the numbers. It's about increasing the desirability. Because right now what I'm dealing with is my competition to the south in Flamborough Township, McCann Dog Training, has 2 such buildings, right? And their clients get to go and they be inside and they're in this heated and air-conditioned building. for the vast majority of the training that they do. So I'm just looking to match that level of service that's being provided there. So I don't know that it's more clients. I just know it's a better experience for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, I just want to stress Paul's point there about the noise study. And from my experience in manufacturing and being close to neighborhoods and that, it's very important to get a noise study before and after if you're going to go to the expense of doing a noise study. One of the questions I had, you mentioned sound abatement in the building, but are there going to be windows and things like that that would be opened up in the summertime that face the neighbors? If that's the case, then there's really no point, going to too much noise abatement. And is the building, you mentioned about the other buildings in Flamborough being air conditioned and heated, as you haven't mentioned yet about this building, will they be heated, air conditioned, so that windows would be closed in the summertime?
It's possible. I mean, right now, what I'm proposing is an empty shell, again, like a horse training arena. If we haven't settled on a final plan for the building, but if we did put any windows, they would be facing towards the train tracks, which is the back half of the property, because that's the only area that we would really want to see. The rest of it is all surrounded by bush. So any windows would be faced towards the train tracks. They wouldn't be facing across the hydro corridor or south to the neighbors. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a completely closed building. It will be, most likely there will be windows involved. I'm sorry, I can't recall the second part of your question.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in perhaps here as well? There'll be an opportunity for the township to evaluate the building itself, the building's location, the exterior components of the building through site plan. So if there's a concern about the situation of the building, where the windows and doors are in the building, there'll be opportunities to entertain those aspects of design through site plan. And if the township has preferences for windows facing the rail tracks or windows facing in a particular direction, we can work with the township to resolve any of those concerns and comments when we have a better sense of the overall design of the building. And then we can also provide the township with the building's specs, as well as the baffling that Mr. Othman's referring to, just to give you and township staff a sense of what it would look like, what it would be made of, and what measures he would take inside the building to dampen the sound.
Megan, would you confirm that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's generally true. However, usually it looks at like architectural components related to a building design. So ultimately, the applicants would have to be pretty much working with the township to move locations of windows and doors. So that would just be something that we'd have to agree upon at that stage, but it could be reviewed at that time, yes.
Okay. Dan, do you have any other questions, or I'm not sure if your second part of your first question got answered?
Just going back to the noise study, I mean, if you don't have a benchmark of the noise currently, then how do you know whether you accomplished anything or not by putting the building in? And like you say, Mr. Othman, you're saying, yes, it will be quieter. I tend to agree with you, but without seeing the design of the building or the windows or anything like that, and without having the benchmark study of what current noise is today, how do you know whether you gained anything? Just a question.
Anything else, Dan? Anything else, Dan?
No, that's it.
Okay, so we move on to Dennis.
Yeah, pretty much all my questions asked, except for back to the waste. If this was a livestock operation, we'd have to do a nutrient management plan. Do you have a written waste management plan for the dog waste?
No, we don't have any written plan. I mean, like I said, we just throw all the waste in green bins and they're taken. It's taken by the company that manages it. So, yeah.
Megan, is that something that needs to be done with a kennel license, or how does that fall under nutrient management planning?
So I think it is a bit of a gray area about particularly dog waste and how it's managed. In terms of how it could be addressed in the future, if there are concerns, there's a couple of ways you could go about it. You could ask for a specific, sorry if I'm breaking up a little bit, I'll just turn my video off. There's a couple of different ways you could impose a condition through this minor variance application to ask for a waste management plan, or it could be determined and evaluated and investigated a little bit more detail at the site plan stage as well, and incorporated into a site plan agreement. So there's a couple of options that exist on how it could be addressed, but that where we could kind of solidify the details a little bit more to address these concerns.
Okay, so we'd be good just to add a condition to have a written waste management plan as a condition.
Through the chair, that is an option. That is one option, or you could have it dealt with through site plan control.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, questions. I'm a little bit concerned that one of the conditions are that the outdoor training area is going to be removed by the township. And you, Mr. Hoffman, indicated that you may continue to train outside. The reason, a big reason for permitting, to permit this indoor training facility is that all outdoor training is eliminated.
Mr. Chair, could I ask if I could just jump in? The bylaw does.
I'll let Megan answer that question.
Sorry.
Through the chair, I think I'm going down the same path that Trevor's going. So the way the bylaw is crafted right now, the site-specific bylaw, there's two outdoor areas. There's an outdoor play area, which is an area that is around the existing building that's 169 square meters in size. And then there's an additional area that was included, that's the outdoor training area. And includes that definition about not having a building. So there's two outdoor areas.
I understand that.
So I guess what I had kind of looked at was if someone's taking this outdoor training area, putting into a building, then they don't need that outdoor training area in that specific location. So my hope was that that specific area would be removed if this application was approved. But I was leaving the outdoor play area.
Okay, Trevor, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Megan and I had discussed this, and I discussed it with Mr. Othman as well. Our understanding was that, just as Megan described, the remainder of that white box on the plan that everyone saw earlier, which is the outdoor training area, would be no longer permitted for outdoor training, but Mr. Othman would be allowed to use the other identified outdoor common play area even after the variance is approved. So as he noted, he's not intending to lock the dogs up and keep the dogs inside 24/7 or during the training hours when he's running his classes, that there are still opportunities, identified areas that he would still use for outdoor exercising of the dogs, which is already permitted and is not really related to the training part of the application that we're advancing.
Okay. So Mr. Hoffman, clarification. So the play area will be retained as a play area, and you will not be training dogs outside?
So I would not train dogs in the area that exists that I'm permitted. The play area would still have dogs that go outside. I'm not going to say that no training will occur there. I mean, look, counselor, with all due respect, you know, I train dogs for the police. You know, I train dogs, this isn't just like a pet training facility, you know, where you come and your puppy shakes a paw and gets a whatever those things are, the certificates. I have to do real training here. I have to expose the dogs to more than just being indoors. Just like with a horse training facility, you can't just train in the arena. Yeah, you can do the majority of the work there, but you do have to go outside. And you know, I really want to remove a lot of that, but I can't remove it completely. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to remove it completely, because it would completely destroy my ability to provide the clients the services and the dogs that, you know, have made us successful to this point. So it will reduce noise and it will reduce training that happens outdoors greatly. I'm not going to completely remove training from occurring outside.
Megan, can you comment on that, please?
So through to you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe, so subject lands are subject to the old township bylaw. Just to give a bit of history, that old bylaw just has a definition of a kennel, and it doesn't have any zone regulations. So the site-specific provisions do identify an outdoor common play area. However, there's no definition of how that's used. I guess you make some assumptions on the phrasing of it, but there is no absolute definition. But that area is part of the kennel, which by definition does allow training. But I think ultimately what this application is trying to do is it's trying to get rid of one of the largest outdoor training areas on site and incorporate that into an actual building. So it's not, I guess, a perfect solution, but it's a compromise that I saw with this particular application.
Okay, Mr. Othman, I want to pursue this a little bit further. How much reduction do you anticipate in the summer months of utilization of the current outdoor training area? If you, let's assume you use it 100% of it now, and in the summer months, are you still going to be predominantly outside with your training area?
No, we would not. We would be taking advantage of the indoor space that we have. It'll be cooler in there. So again, you know, where you're really going to see us utilizing the indoor space heavily is with the group classes that we have with clients. Right now, our group classes, even in winter, are held outside. This would allow us to move the vast majority of the clients that come to us for private training and for group classes indoors. Right now, the only training that would continue outdoors would be, you know, training performed by myself or my staff, not really group classes. So the groups and the clients would be moved into the new facility.
Okay, that's all I have. We'll take the item into our committee right now. So, gentlemen, any of you wish to discuss this amongst ourselves right now, or are you, for instance, one suggestion was to include a condition that a waste management program be implemented or written out. Another one was to undertake a noise study. Dan?
Yeah, I agree with both those comments.
Okay. So perhaps we can craft it. I guess I'd like to have a comment still from Megan on the better way to do the waste management, either through site plan control or a specific condition. If you do a specific condition, will that be automatically taken through the site plan control process in any event?
Mr. Chair, yeah, like it'll still be something that we can address through the site plan stage when that's initiated. But essentially, if it's imposed as a condition of the minor variance, that means that the building permit can't be issued on the property until all those conditions are met. But at the same time, one of the conditions is site plan control. So it's all tied together. So you can impose the condition and then we can deal with it so that it's clearly stated that's the direction of the committee, and then it can be addressed through the site plan approval process, and then it could also be incorporated potentially within some format within the agreement.
So I'm going to suggest that the condition be that a waste management plan be developed as part of the site plan approval process. That work for you, Megan?
Through the chair, that's fine. Are you thinking? So I kind of list out issues that such as but not limited to be addressed, and you were thinking about including a waste management plan, something to that effect?
I think the committee members want to be specific. The condition here that was provided by Lynn and by Courtney does not specifically say that. It says not limited to building location setbacks from existing dwellings. And my idea would be to put then what you're saying is put a clause in there, a waste management plan. Would that work for you?
Through the chair, you could either put the clause in there or you can put it as a separate condition, similar to condition number 5 that's been posed, saying through site plan control, it'll also address item A, B, C, or anything else that you want to clarify.
Okay. And Dan, you mentioned a noise study.
Yeah, and then we also talked about, well, there was some mention about building design, and I guess that would be approved, would it, Megan? Like it's somewhere down the road for window location, insulation, noise abatement. Will doors be open in the summertime, that type of thing?
So the site plan process will look at the architectural designs, and we can look at the location of the windows and the doors. However, it's more likely that a noise assessment would provide recommendations about window placement and door placement and if they're open or not to help with noise attenuation. So it would probably be, if you have the noise assessment as a condition, that will actually help significantly, I think, with enforcing and obligating those particular requirements, as opposed to it just being like, we prefer to see it in this location.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments we wish to include as part of the conditions? Yes, Megan.
Sorry, I know it's not necessarily my moment to speak, but I just wanted to provide one clarification. So within the condition number 1, it says it's providing clarification that the building's intended to be used for training purposes only. It's supposed to also read, does not include washrooms or office space. Because my understanding is that the building's not having any of those things. So I was trying to list out what it's not including.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. So it does not, okay, fair enough. It does not permit boarding, breeding, grooming, or keeping of dogs for sale, fair enough. Okay, so the condition 4, gentlemen, I'm suggesting that we say that the site plan approval be obtained from the township to address issues such as, but not limited to, building location, setbacks from existing dwellings in natural environment zone, fencing, noise management plan, noise assessment study, instead of just saying noise, etc. So after fencing, we include a waste management plan and noise assessment study. Does that work with the rest of you gentlemen?
Yes.
Just a thought. I guess the only thing that is in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with regards to the actual bylaw of having the home business, you know, we did mention there's an open file, and you know, even that side, maybe we wanted to make sure that it complies fully, maybe a number of employees or size of business before we kind of, so that could be another condition to just make sure that it's, you know, fits our bylaw for a home business.
Megan, can you comment on that, please?
That's a good question, but I think traditionally kennels are considered to be separate from a home business. So we haven't been, and township staff can clarify, but I don't think we've been applying the same home business regulations because it's a commercial kennel operation. It's considered separate.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, so I'll read everything out and then we'll do the voting. So the 3 options are approved, opposed, or deferred. All right, so let's go on to this. In matter of Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended and zoning bylaw 19/85 as amended, and an application for minor variance requesting permission to allow requesting relief of from the special provisions section of agricultural A1 of bylaw 19/85, specifically section 5.4 PPP3, which establishes a maximum kennel floor area of 169 square meters, and 7, which prohibits a training area to be within a building or structure. The subject application is proposing relief from these sections to permit a maximum kennel floor area of 838 square meters and to permit a training area within a building or structure. And it's to be approved with the following conditions: that the subject relief is solely for the purposes of facilitating the construction of indoor training facility, which is to be used for training purposes only, and does not include washrooms, office space, and does not permit the boarding, breeding, grooming, or keeping of dogs for sale. 2, that the subject relief is solely for the purposes of permitting a single-story indoor training facility that shall not exceed a gross floor area of 669 square meters. 3, that the permission for the outdoor training area to be removed to the satisfaction of the township. 4, that site plan approval be obtained from the township to address issues such as, but not limited to, building location, setbacks from existing dwellings and the natural environment zone, fencing, waste management plan, and noise assessment study. 5, as per the township's Portland Site Plan Control Bylaw 2019-029, the final approval of future site plan application shall be given by Township Council, and that part of the application process shall be that council shall give consideration to public comments and concerns. Okay, so let's go around the table. Deep?
I approve.
Okay, Paul?
Approve.
Dan?
Approve.
Dennis?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Okay, so this will be subject to a 22-day appeal period. And we're done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next part of the agenda. Number 7, there are no other matters, and the adjournment of the Committee of Adjustment. So the meeting is to be adjourned at 8:32. To have a mover and a seconder to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment. Moved by Paul, seconded by Dan. Let's go around the table. Deep?
Approve.
Paul?
Approve.
Dan?
Approve.
Dennis?
Approve.
I approve adjourning the Committee of Adjustment. Okay, now let's move into the next part, the Planning Development Advisory Committee. As I mentioned at the start of the session, that we have a one lot line adjustment and one severance application that we will be commenting, and comments will be provided to the county for these two. So do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest, Lynn?
No, we do not.
Gentlemen, do you have any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so let's go on to item 3, approval of minutes of December 8th, 2020. Do I have a mover and a seconder for these minutes? Moved by Dennis, second by Dan. All in favor? Let's go around the table. Deep?
Approved.
Paul? Paul, you're muted. Paul, you're muted. Let's go to Dan.
Approve.
Dennis?
Approve.
Paul, you there? Hello, Paul?
He might have lost his internet. There he comes.
Oh.
Sorry.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Yeah, we're
Sorry,
going.
I missed the last little bit.
Do you approve the minutes?
Oh, sorry.
Do you approve the minutes?
Yeah, I approve.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
So let's move on. to the
My
next
connection's
item.
gonna drop.
Yeah. Okay, application for site plan and urban design approval, we have none. Zoning bylaw amendment, we have none. Land division, 6A, lot line adjustment application B 108-20, D10 SIN, Pauline Sinclair, Part Lot 12, Concession 3, municipally known as 6769 and 6771, Concession 4, Township of Puslinch. Proposed lot line adjustment is 2.6 hectares with 48.9 meters frontage, existing rural residential use with existing shop and shed to be added to abutting rural residential lot Jeffrey and Pauline Sinclair. Retained parcel is 52 meters frontage by 78 meters of 0.4 hectares vacant land for proposed rural residential use. Okay, so Courtney, do we have a applicant or agent to speak to this?
I guess I'm moving Mr. Buseman over now.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm here.
You hear there, Jeff? Great.
Sorry it takes so long to get in connected.
Fair enough.
So, would you like me to present, Mr. Chair?
Yes, could you please present? Yes, absolutely.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. This property has been juggled around in property line configuration several times, and always just had one house on it, and a second house was never built on the vacant lot. So right now it's a U-shaped parcel with the house in between, house number 6771. So the idea is to basically merge the majority of the U-shape with the existing house and be left over with a parcel that is 0.4 of a hectare at the corner of the property. There's the driveway already exists for that parcel, as well as a driveway for the retained lands. Like the other benefit is that the shop that's in the back there will now be merged with that house. So this is basically a lot line adjustment to create one small lot and one larger lot. Any questions?
Okay, let's go around the table. Deep questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Paul?
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
Dan?
I'm just wondering, is there a plan in the future to turn this very large lot into 3 smaller ones?
No, and it would be I have to double check the history here, but I think it'd be in contravention with the planning policies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dennis?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good as well. So, Lynn, are there any specific comments that you will be making?
Our only condition would be that the owner satisfy the requirements of the township personal financial and otherwise including taxes paid in full and consent review and condition clearance fee. I believe there's an entrance already, so they don't need an entrance permit.
Yeah, sounds good. So my suggestion is that we say we have no comments to make, and do you gentlemen wish to further add that we are in support of the what we call the lot line adjustment?
I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's make a motion with respect so that the committee supports the 7th application and has no comments. So they have a mover for that?
I'll move it.
Deep, second, Dan. Let's go around the table. In favor? Deep?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approved.
Dennis?
Approved.
And I approve as well. Okay, let's go on to the next one, 7th application, B111-20, also known as D10/STU, John Stubbs and Mary Lake, Part Lot 16, Concession 2, municipally known as 4363 Runton Road 35, Cambridge. Proposed severance is 1.5 hectares with 128-meter frontage, existing and proposed rural residential use with existing dwelling and shed. Retained parcel is 33.2 hectares with 727 meter frontage, proposed agriculture use with existing drive shed and barn. Okay, over to you, Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the sketch going to come on the screen? There we go. It's coming. Thank you. Mr. Chair and committees, this is an application for a surplus farm resident severance. As you know, I do many severances. I do a lot of surplus farm resident severances, but they're more in the northern part of the county. There's a few that have happened in Puslinch. So the premise of a surplus farm resident severance is that the farmhouse be separated out and then the rest of the farm stay as a farm and actually be rezoned to not have a dwelling on it. The idea is that a large scale farmer in the area buys the farmland and can buy the farmland. And that's all that person wants. If they had to buy the whole property, then they'd have to buy it with the house and then actually be landlords and have tenants and so on with the house. Also allows them to buy the farmland, which is what they're seeking for a lower capital investment than if they had to buy it with the house. The main premise of these kinds of severances is to keep the area of the house as small as possible. This one's probably a touch bigger than what is typically hoped for, primarily because of the layout of the land and the topography of the land. Basically, the limit is expected if you come in from Downey Road, down the driveway, the property limit is going to be on the right-hand side of the driveway, and actually make sure that the hydro line that services the house will stay on the severance. And then the north limit and rear limit of the severance will be on the severance side of the wetland. We looked at a variety of things. We looked at the idea of the wetland staying with the severance, but we feel like that it would be too large that way. Also, this field that's in front of the house is kind of almost trapped or not, it's not connected to the main field of the farm very well. There's a low area in front of the bush on the north end, and you could get equipment around that bush and into the front field, but be a bit of a challenge. So it makes sense that field that's in front of the house stay with the house. Probably one of the biggest challenges with this severance is that the provincial policies talk about making sure that development is away, 30 meters away from a wetland type feature that you see on the north side. We obviously do not have, we're not proposing 30 meters in this case. We're proposing it to be sort of at the edge of the field, a couple of meters away from the bush. The main reason is if we were to apply a 30-meter buffer, well, then that would be going through the house and the shed and the septic. So we obviously can't do that. Our premise is that, that if you read those policies, technically speaking, they define a property line as development. I guess I see more development as new buildings, new structures, new activity going on. In this case, there's none of that. All the buildings will remain as they are. That's the nature of a surplus from resident severance. There's no new house being built on the retained parcel. So, and we've seen it in the past where the Land Division Committee has supported lot line adjustments that would basically result in the same thing. It's a little bit different because you're starting with two parcels and ending with two parcels. In this case, we're starting with one and ending up with two. But the net impact on the wetlands and so on we would consider to be the same. So in terms of meeting the other criteria of the surplus farm resident severance, they are met. We have a bona fide farmer that's looking to purchase the lands. The next question will be what to do with the barn. There would be a conflict for MDS between the existing barn and the proposed severance. That conflict, the intended purchaser does not plan to have any animals in that barn, but so then to deal with that, what we can do at the zone change stage to rezone the retained farm not to have a dwelling, we can also add the caveat to not have animals in that barn. The farmer that wants to use this land it has a number of parcels in the area, and he would like to just use it for storage and part of his ongoing farm operations. I think that, in summary, explains the severance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments that the committee may have.
Megan, do you have any comments to add to this?
Not a whole lot. I would just say, you know, Quistlange doesn't often see surplus farm dwelling severances, so this is kind of like a unique little gem for this community. It is a pocket of prime agricultural lands. I believe, so Jeff has alluded to some provincial growth plan policies that are in place about having a certain setback from key hydrological features being wetlands when it comes to development being lot creation, not necessarily just meaning site alteration. So I think this will likely be the first scenario that the county will encounter where someone's proposing this particular scenario, so a surplus farm dwelling severance that doesn't meet that 30-meter setback. The intent of those provincial policies, though, is not just to have an arbitrary number. It's intended to have like an actual vegetative buffer to protect and also kind of expand on the key hydrological feature in that kind of like greenland system. So it will be something unique that the county planners will have to contemplate, and also the land division committee. Jeff is, sorry, I said I was not going to say too much, but I'm just going. So Jeff has noted that a zoning amendment for the retained lands is a requirement. So that is noted in the county's official plan. So if a surplus farm dwelling is considered and meets all the tests and it's approved, one of the key conditions is that a dwelling is then prohibited on the retained lands, and that's a provincial policy requirement and then echoed in the county official plan. In terms of MDS, there's different ways you can deal with it. You can have relief, but I could see this being kind of pretty significant relief requirement. You can remove the barn, or you can put a prohibition through zoning. So that is something that can be contemplated. But if the township's proposing conditions, I would suggest that the zoning condition be recommended. It's something that we'll say as planners, but it should be echoed by the township as well. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so let's go around the table. Deep, questions of either Jeff or of Megan?
Hey, Jeff, do we have any comments from the GRCA on this one regarding the severance?
Let's go to the night. I do not recall seeing any yet. I can't get to my server fast enough to know for sure, but I'm going to say no, not at this moment.
Okay, you think they will have a problem with the severance with it being so close to less than 30 meters?
I don't want to speak for them on their behalf. I mean, I can't speak on their behalf because I've seen them, you know, if anything, I've seen a bias a little bit to say, yeah, a new line is technically development, and that is maybe what technically the policy says, but you know, they kind of suggest we don't see growth, we don't see new buildings and so on happen. But I'd rather see the GRCA speak for themselves on it. It's
okay.
hard to say.
And second question was regarding the driveway access. Is that already in place, or that's still?
Oh, the driveway to the house is already there.
Yeah.
Okay, and like the hydro line is to the right side of it, so the property line will be just on the right side of the hydro line. There will be a new entrance required on the retained farm, and there is already one existing field entrance. We've noted that on the sketch.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to Paul.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Dan?
Oh, no questions.
Okay, Dennis?
No, I'm good with the suggestion to have no livestock in the barns and yeah, that all.
Okay, so let's go on to Lynn. Lynn, any comments that you have that you intend to put forward as staff?
I have 3, that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the township, financial and otherwise, and payment of the consent review and condition clearance fee. Second, that the owner obtain an entrance permit. And third, that the owner apply for and receive a zoning bylaw amendment for the retained lands to prohibit a residential use and to prohibit livestock in the barn on the retained parcel.
Okay, so That's fine then. My suggested comment on this is that we support staff's comments on this application and we have no concerns. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that we support the application and we support Township's comments with respect to the 4 issues they've identified. You have a mover, Dennis, seconder? Dan, okay, let's move around the table. Who's in favor? Deep?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
Dennis?
Approved.
And I approve as well. Okay, item number 7, other matters.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Jeff. Other matters, does anybody have anything to bring up?
No.
Closed meeting, we have none. The next meeting is on Tuesday, February the 9th at 7 o'clock. I guess the question I have of Lynn and Courtney, the fact that we're down into this lockdown again, does that affect having a meeting?
I can answer that if you'd like. Right now, until the province does as they did in March and pretty much shuts down all committee of adjustments, we'll continue to have our meetings until we hear otherwise.
So we'll have the meeting in February. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we got the adjournment for 8:51 p.m. So I have a mover.
I'll move it.
Okay, Deep, second. Dan? Okay, let's go around the table. Deep?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
Dennis?
Approved.
And I approve as well. Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a long meeting, but we accomplished, I think, quite a bit.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good night.
Everybody.
Good